And who was doing that? Carl?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Thursday, September 1st, 2022 Roanoke County School Board work session. Before we have Madam Clerk call the roll, I would like to make a motion to allow Mr. Ray to join the Roanoke County work session electronically due to personal reasons.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. All right, and now, with Mr. Ray being permitted to join, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Jump right into information items. Item number 2.01, compensation study update for the 2023-2024 budget. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. Gosh, I suppose we're already be up here talking budget for next year. We barely got the budget in for this year. But we did want to, I'm working with a great team, Dr. McClung, Mr. Bradshaw, Ms. Edsel, on the compensation study. And so I wanted to give you a quick update as to our progress. We did put the RFP out, the request for a proposal, August 18th, and it was opened yesterday. So I can't say who all bid at this point because it's still an ongoing process, but they were opened up yesterday. We're hoping we'll go through the negotiation piece and all of that with the person's vendors selected and hopefully have a signed contract by the end of September. The scope that we put into the RFP was to take a look at, at the top of the screen, the teacher pay scale and the non-teaching pay scale. And then at the bottom of the screen, all of our supplemental pay scales that we pay off of as well. The academic supplements, supplemental pay scales, and athletic stipends. So all of these are included in the full pay plan that Mr. Bradshaw pulls together and you approve every year. So everything's kind of on the table to look at. The analysis that we expect them to perform would be a market study analysis. That's going to help us look at outside of our division to enhance our teacher competitiveness. We also want to look at the athletic stipends and make sure that we are continuing to stay in alignment with that and bring ourselves back into alignment if we are out of alignment. We want to look at an internal equity. We do know that we have some compression issues at the bottom of this scale, and so we want to make sure that if we can correct those, we get that done. Any staff inequities between different positions that may have accidentally come to light, we would like to correct anything like that. And then we would also like them to take a look at the relationship of the plans between each other and determine if we can put in place a career path for any administrator who wants to come, because right now, the way that we have adopted the two pay scales, we have as you recall from all of our budget meetings, the teacher pay scale has a 1.5 incremental difference between steps. The administrator one, or the non-teacher one, has 2% increase. And so typically every year, we give an extra 0.5% scale to the teachers so that they're getting the same raise as everyone else, because we want to be fair across the board. Well, what that's done is created an inequity between the scales, because you have the one going up and the other one not going up, it stands still. So we do want to take a look at that. I just mean the scales between each other, how the two scales relate to each other. I'm not even talking at the top right now.
Can I throw in an issue here that has kind of came to light to me this year that I don't know that I really thought this way the last several years, but it's pretty powerful. So we have some administrators that are in positions that, probably their next step would be to a staff position in Central or something of that nature to be, if they wanted to get their doctorate or if they wanted to move forward or what have you. I almost, to me, there are some administrators that are so powerful in the positions they are in that, yes, they could come here for more money or, make a move up to progress for more money. But I'm not sure they're not in the best place where they're supposed to be right now, and that they make a bigger impact community-wise through the children, a whole lot more of an impact there. And I don't mean this bad, but then coming up here and leaving those children. We have some wonderful people in this system, not just administrative, but it just so happens sometimes, and maybe that's a teacher that's thinking about going to, I don't know how to think about this, but, we've talked about for a few years, you max out. Well, for some of these folks to move up or to have a move up, they have to move into another. And I'll be honest with you, there's a few I would fight for not to have to do that if they want to stay where they're at. I'm not, now if they want to go, that's all, up to them. But there are a few folks that I know in our system, at least in my district, that I will
Same
fight.
thing's true like on the teacher side, right?
Absolutely.
Like
That's what I'm saying.
You could be the
I-
most impactful, powerful
Yes,
first grade teacher in
yes.
the world, and
To go to an administrative
Right.
position,
that's what I hear you saying, because I know previously you had concerns about, people continuing to get steps, but you'd like, maybe we could roll this into this compensation study, is sort
That's
of an
what I'm at.
analysis of that, and then bring it back for some discussion and decisions.
yes. Yes, because I don't want to make those people have to move just to get better pay. They should be paid twice what they're not, I know how that, but, we have some really rock stars. And I just don't want them to be penalized because they're doing what they should be doing. And they do it well,
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
Got hot mics tonight, don't we?
Yeah. I hear it echoing.
So I want to make sure I write this down properly to look at. You want to take a look at the top of the scale and whether or not we should have a limit or let it continue on in perpetuity. And we would add steps every year.
Yes, I realize that's a tricky topic, but again, there are some people in our system, and I don't get down into the teacher level as much because we talk to the administrators more, we talk to you guys more, right? But there are some teachers that we don't want to take an assistant principal's job. We don't want to take a principal's job or come to Central. Not because they're not deserving, not because they're not awesome, but because they're affecting 20 lives at a time, which is more impactful and says more, to our school system than us promoting them just because that's what we have to do to give them more money. I don't know how you do that. I get that's a hard thing to quantify and task, but I think it's important.
But the pros and cons and different ways of looking at that is certainly we could ask.
If they've got an
group
idea,
to
yeah.
bring back that, and then we can have
Yeah.
a robust discussion around that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah.
And if you're able to provide us some history on, have we capped at 30? Has it always been a cap at 30
Has there been 30 steps?
steps?
We've had more steps in the past.
We did
And
have
maybe the
43,
rationale.
didn't we? Didn't we
Yeah.
have
At
43?
one point, we had a lot more steps.
The rationale that was used for removing those, if we can find that out.
I think the first compensation study that we had recommended we pull it down to 30 years. So I think it was as a result of a compensation study that occurred.
It's fairly typical in the area, I'll say that, except for Franklin County, they have like 16 steps.
Exactly.
They're kind of an outlier, but most of them have that. But back when I was a lot further away from 30, I probably didn't think about how many there were. So I can't recall off the top of my head how many there used to be.
But that's definitely something we can take a look at. The other thing that we wanted to have the vendor take a look at are any other best practices that would help us be more competitive. For example, let's take a look at our leave policies, and if we could tweak any of them to help keep us attractive or make us more attractive. So we'll look at those as well. The timeline that we have, and keep in mind, we've not had any discussions with the vendors that may possibly get selected at this point. So this is really kind of throwing the darts up at the board. It is our expectation that we would have a kickoff in November, and then from that time period through January, they would be completing all of the analyses that they would need to do, and we would have a final report in time to bring to you for the February work session, so that way we can incorporate any recommendations that they may make. And we are going to ask them to take a look at multiple implementation plans, because a lot of times when you take a look at a compensation study, sometimes you can't do it all in 1 year. And we do know going into next year that right now there's a 5% raise on the table that was discussed at the beginning of the biennium, that we would get 5% each. So we would definitely want to at least get an average 5% for all of our employees for next year. And so we would want to take that in consideration as we are making this change. So that's really, I mean, I was short today, and if there's anything else that you'd like us to jot down, we can take that. Otherwise, I can let you roll on.
I think we look forward to seeing what that shows.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Item number 2.02, policy updates. Dr. Stigall.
All right, hello, good evening. So we have 3 policies to review today. We'll take a look at the one that's up here. What is that, 642 DAR? So this is the acceptable use policy for mobile devices. So this came up in conversation when we're asking teachers to use their personal cell phones. There was some language in here that we needed to add to basically clarify what our current practice is. So basically what we added in this document was the school division stores the MAC addresses of mobile devices that access RCPS staff BYOD Wi-Fi. However, no additional information is stored, monitored, or archived from staff personal devices. So that is what we currently have been practicing. However, it was not in writing. So we added that to our policy. The next thing we changed in this policy was from our principals meeting. At the very bottom of that policy, it says enforcement. We have been over time removing consequences. Policies used to list consequences that you could give to violators. And so this one was still there, and it's not current practice. So we just erased that. The consequences are part of the student code of conduct, not necessarily attached to each individual policy. So that enforcement piece has been removed. Not that there won't be consequences, it's just this is just not the place to put the consequences. There are more consequences that we have available to us, and then there are common practices that aren't listed there. So that's why we removed that. So there are the 2 changes to that policy.
Did that include staff and students, or just staff?
Just staff.
Okay, so the key piece here that I didn't understand, that I want to make sure, this is voluntary, right?
It is.
It is voluntary.
You're talking about like downloading the app?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do this.
No, there's a desktop version that can work on laptops.
Okay. All right, and we issue the laptops, right? So, okay.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
I think that's,
Okay, now let's take a look at 6.42. And on this one, this is our acceptable computer system use, and we added language there to reflect the difference between RCPS Secure Network and RCPS Staff BYOD. The teachers have to sign on to Staff BYOD. Students are signed on to the Secure Network, so there's a difference in the language throughout the policy. So that was done in order to clarify there is a difference between how we manage mobile devices if you're a staff or if you're a student based on the network that you're on. So that was just some cleaning up some language that, for example, one of the statements is there that you have no access to privacy while using our Wi-Fi. That's for the secure network, not for the staff BYOD. So we're just clarifying language in that policy as well. Then moving on to policy 6.51. This is a policy for high school graduation exercises. At our principals meeting, we had discussion about this policy and wanted to update the policy to reflect current practice. In the first one, we added graduation activity, participation, and awarding of diplomas section. This is currently our practice. However, it's not written in policy anywhere, and every couple years, somebody's always calling and say, what do we do again with these kids? So we needed to put this in policy so it's there. So that has been current practice, it just hasn't been written in policy. The other thing we added was the decision to wear cords, stoles, and medals to the discretion of the school principal. So that is what we have been practicing. We did that last year. We just needed to change the policy to reflect that. So that has been added to that policy as well. Any questions about any of those?
Ms. Fashani?
Yeah, I do have some concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the broader concept here, and I understand that it was an unwritten policy, if you will, because I am aware of what happened at that school. My concern is, why would we want to be inconsistent across our division? And why would we not want to recognize our students for their achievements? It seems unreasonable to me.
Can you think of like a specific, like you said, there was something that happened, like what,
Yeah, so,
like without naming a school maybe, like was it?
yeah, so I guess there was an issue at one of the schools where the principal decided that there would be no cords that students could wear at graduation. So,
I think.
Was
now,
that
I don't
resolved?
think that's happened, but there was a situation in which, like, one of the clubs that gives whatever they give, like at some schools, the club gives a cord, and at some schools, the club gives a pin. I know that happened.
that happened.
I can't think of a school where people don't wear cords.
Okay, it was my understanding that there was a specific school where the principal decided there'd be no cords. And that, no.
It was exactly what Dr. Nicely explained.
I know that happened, what I was talking about.
The club made the decision, and that goes back to what the organization recommends, pins or stoles, and they have a choice of what they purchase. So that comes straight from the club, the person who manages that club, what they wear. Some wear pins, some wear stoles, some wear, it's just cords. All the organizations recommend different things.
Okay, well, even being so, I think the language I still have concerns about, because you're giving, it should be a division decision, and there should be continuity across all the high schools with how we recognize our students. And if you give a principal that, if you will, power, any principal could come in and just say, we're not doing anything this year. Because that's what that language says to me, is somebody could walk in and say, we're not going to recognize, if I don't want to recognize your achievement, I'm not going to recognize your achievement. So I think the language, probably we need to address it and think about it. Am I reading that wrong?
This is intended for those who aren't Roanoke County issued. These are those that are asked to be worn outside of Roanoke County issued. So the Roanoke County ones, there's not an option, because that has to be done. These are ones that are requested from outside organizations.
Like an honor graduate, I think that's written somewhere else, that's standard across. What happens is sometimes you have requests from outside organizations, they say, well, we want kids in, XYZ club outside of school, we're giving them some, we want them to wear that in your high school graduation too. Mm-hmm. And that creates kind of an issue sometimes, and so.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So why don't we just make it a county-wide policy instead of every individual principal policy, so that we have continuity across all of our schools, would be my question.
As far as like outside organizations?
Mm-hmm. I don't think there would be a downside to that.
I think what happened is several years ago when we started down this road of trying to create a consistency chart, every single school and every single club and every single area did something different. So in order to gain that consistency, we're going to have to change everybody's current practice. So it's just like, for example, one beta club might do stalls, another beta club might do pins, and this has been tradition for years at that school. So we would have had to, in order to make it consistent, we would have had to change all that to equal consistency. And then when we started looking at outside clubs, then that was a whole nother thing, because some clubs had requests and, individual requests that would come from outside organizations that other schools would not get.
But academic achievements, you wouldn't have any issues with.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
These are just requests for outside.
Right.
For the outside, the only other thing we could do would be, they'd have to be approved by, Dr. Cigar or something like that. I mean, that's the only way you can make it consistent.
I kind of get where that's coming from. As long as it's academic, we move on.
Sure.
Or club, or school club related.
Right, right.
Yeah, within the
But
school.
like
The
you're
issue
saying
comes in
now,
with
it's an
outside groups. And sometimes you want to work with that, it's just, and that's why I don't want to start listing stuff, and so
Yeah.
I don't think you want to hem yourself in, but that'd be the only way to get it consistent would be, instead of making an individual school decision, we just make the decision up here.
Yeah.
Couple questions. Were all the principals in agreement on this policy change?
They were. They
Okay.
were. One principal asked if we could ask them to have information to them a month in advance for preparation purposes.
He had a question.
So they decided they were going to send that out through their announcement system through senior sponsors. They would send that out, and that would not be part of policy. That would just be part of school practice. So they just wanted, what happened was one of the notifications to do something different came 1 week before graduation. So they wanted to put a timeline in it.
And where's that section again about that outside?
It's
Can you
at
pull up on the
the-
screen?
let's see,
6.51, it's the
6.51 is at
second
the
one.
very bottom, Chuck, very last sentence, right there.
Can you read it out loud?
Yeah, students who receive special honors awards will be listed in the graduation program, i.e. National Honor Society, Beta Club, scholarship awards, et cetera, and the appropriate, sorry. And the appropriate notation made. Decisions regarding requests to wear cord, stalls, or medals will be at the discretion of the school principal and will only be considered for official community established organizations.
Let us go back and tweak that language some
I
more.
just
and
think
kinda
the
bring it
language-
back, 'cause we don't have to decide today.
Yeah. I just think it could be a little bit more clear, because how I read that is any given, like, let's say my principal Whitlow retires, somebody else comes in, that next principal could just say, well, I'm not going to allow any requests and allow any organization to wear cords or stoles or medals, where, I mean, that would be a real shame, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I don't know any principal that would, but, and then what process do we have in place for someone to contest that decision made by that principal? Is there a process? Let's say somebody doesn't, a student or a family doesn't agree with that. What process do we have in place to say, oh, hold on, that's not so fair? Do you go to the board? Do you go to the principal? Do you?
I think we have a month or two before we can make this,
Yeah.
decision. So let us go back to the principals and do some more tweaking, and we'll come back with.
Yeah, I understand the
option.
purpose. I just think when we give
Right.
latitude, we lack continuity, and I don't think we want that as a division.
Mr. Ray, did you have a question? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Mr. Ray?
Yeah, thank you. The audio's, Chuck, it's, you got with all the words that people are saying. And I may cover something that already has been said, but I don't understand, I guess, if we have outside organizations, inside organizations, are we gonna limit it to something like an inside organization? And how many principals allow cords and pins and whatever they receive?
All of them do for inside school-related activities, all of them do. There's no concern around that. The concern is when they're asked about outside organizations and permission to do so.
which would be, give me a few examples.
Well, I'll give you one. And this would probably be something that we would probably be in favor of, but an outside organization, let's say a student, we're going to go, enlist in the Army or something like that. The Army might give a stole to wear at graduation. That's an outside organization, so that would fall under that, purview. What the schools want to do is maintain that balance between keeping the ceremony dignified, versus everybody kind of coming in with a free-for-all, and just, you want to maintain the dignity of the ceremony, and so it gets tricky when you do that. But the one I gave Mr. Ray would be an example of an outside organization that sometimes comes up, stuff like that.
I'm telling you, you may want to have these questions, but I think we're on the right path.
I can't hear.
Yeah. So I said, Mike, that we may want to have those conversations individually with Dr. Stegall and Dr. Nicely, but I think we're on the right path.
So are we gonna take this policy out and then discuss it more?
What I would suggest to Mr. Ray is that, based on the feedback, we go back to the principals and come up with another revision and kind of clarify it and get it back, come back with an alternative based on the feedback you all have provided today. So this is not something that has to be decided, in the next few weeks, and so we can bring it back to the next work session.
So we'll pull this policy out, 6.51 out of Thursday's meeting.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I could just piggyback on what you just said, Ken, I agree. We need to maintain decorum, and it needs to be as professional as it can be, with consistency.
Sure.
Would be my, and when I think of you up there in your beautiful hood, the PhD or
I got two this
EDD,
year.
yeah, in your new one, and the regalia that we are able to wear, a master's degree or a PhD or EDD, it would see a shame not to recognize our students. And I'm afraid when we create a policy that goes that far, that we're losing sight of what could actually happen. That's all.
And as Dr. Stegall mentioned, I mean, the school traditions that some have is so important, because, I mean, I'd hate to whitewash these graduation ceremonies so that they're all standard across all schools. I mean, when you go over to William Byrd and they do the hum, I mean, are we going to just make them, let's face it, this is the last time some of these kids are ever going to see each other, and it's a big achievement for them, and you want it to be traditional and respectful, but you also want it to be enjoyable. And watching those kids jump up and down over at William Byrd, that's neat to see. I'd hate to lose some of those great traditions that we have at our different
You
graduations.
just wanted to see me dance. That's what.
Yeah, I could have done without that.
But this isn't specific, this is specific to recognitions and awards, not to ceremonies.
Well, yeah, and I
Yeah.
just hope we're not creating policy,
Just to create policy.
yeah. But,
This really does need to be in writing, because it creates controversy and conflict almost every year something comes up. And so it's really a way to bring clarity, definition, and support what the schools are trying to do, and just strike that balance, right? Without, just, again, balance, right? Because I love the uniqueness of each ceremony, right? You don't want to, do away with that, but.
And I get what Ms. Fashani's bringing, but I'm telling you, we're on the right path. Yes, we're on the right path.
all right, any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Kegels, item number 2.03, Green Valley Elementary School gym floor.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Man down.
I asked Chuck for a wireless system, so.
Come on, Chuck.
There goes the budget.
So, if I may, before he gets started, since I saw he had a lot of projects on the list, I wanted you to have a current, a capital reserves report, so you can see the balances that are on here, so you can see what we're working with. In minor capital reserves, we have $485,648. In the past 10 years, this is only the second time our balance in this account has gone below $500,000. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I am not trying to dissuade you from doing any project. I just want you aware of the financial situation we are facing.
But everything's in here, so the 700 for the playground this year, but I don't see the 700 for next year.
This is next year.
That is next, okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry. Okay, gotcha.
The other 700 already came out in the prior report.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, let me just add, that's why she got that award,
Because she can tell us no.
because she can do this.
So, sorry.
She's had to tell me no a couple times.
So just for clarity, what I hear you saying is there are no projects that have already been approved that's not accounted for
That's
with
what
that
I'm asking.
485,000.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And I just wanted to make sure that was the second phase of the 700.
There are no projects that have been approved in the public forum by the school board that are not on
That's
here.
not on here. Yeah,
I cannot attest to any that may have
may
been
come up.
discussed outside of the school board forum meeting format, but if it was approved in a minute, it is in here.
Gotcha, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Ray.
I can't understand anything that was said. What was the final decision? Maybe I can hear you, but I'm trying to figure out what did we discuss before?
Are you reverting back to the policy updates?
He's on the floor.
Yeah.
Mr. Ray, we were just, well, before we started talking about the floor at Green Valley,
Ms. Peterson was just reminding the board of the balance that's currently left in the minor capital reserves fund, which is $485,000, $485,648 and some change, which is, she was just pointing out the fact that it's not been under 500,000 since 2019. That's the only time that's happened, and she was just saying that by way of information. So Mr. Kegels hasn't started talking about the floor yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just can't, the audio is terrible.
Okay, so the floor at Green Valley Elementary is the original parquet flooring. It's been repaired year after year after year. It is separating from the concrete underlayment. The wood is coming up from it, so it basically creates these big bubbles, these big soft spots in the floor that are tripping hazards. If you go over there and look at it, it's been repaired multiple times to varying degrees of success. They've tried using like epoxy fillers in place of the little pieces of wood, the parquet that come up, because you can't get it anymore. You can't get that original maple parquet. And so it's really reached the end of its life. And there are a couple of options. One is that we could have the fellow who usually does this kind of work for us come in and peel all that up, all the sections that are, I think there's 10 right now, that he'd peel up, and then he'd try to glue them back down. That's a temporary solution. There's some moisture over there as part of the reason. It swells the floor up, and that just creates a sort of cycle of constant pressure on it, and then it'll dry out, and it just kind of goes back and forth, and that causes it to lift up. The other solution is to put in a floating floor, similar to what we recently did at Bird Middle. That really eliminates, you don't have to worry so much about the moisture because there's a separation between the concrete floor, and that floor just kind of can move around and stay flat without, having to worry about it buckling up due to moisture. So those are the two options, and I guess for now, I just need you guys to be aware of what's going on over there and maybe discuss what we want to do about it.
Do we have any pictures by chance?
I had one picture of it's very difficult to photograph that because the floor, I'd just be showing you a picture of a gym floor because they don't bubble up high enough to catch on the camera. And so I had them go in and put tape marks on the floor, but they couldn't get high enough to take a picture of where you could really see the X's. But they are still down there if if you wanted to go over and look at them. But they're all over the place in terms of where they've lifted up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have seen the floor. I went and looked at today. It's a tripping hazard. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that something needs to be done about it. I saw the tape marks, I saw the discoloration, and I saw where they try to fix it, and they just keep putting a Band-Aid over a Band-Aid, and it just doesn't seem to be working anymore. The floating floor option, does that would alleviate all the issues moving forward in the future?
Yep.
Yeah, because it looked like, okay, you could just keep pulling it up, putting it down, putting it up. You're just going to be right back where you are next time you have more water.
That's right.
So I guess my question would be, just as we did with the field maintenance, right? Is if that be the case, and I'm sure it is the case, what other schools do we have that are similar in nature that need the same quantifiable floors put down because of whether they be moisture or some other situation?
Yes, Mr. Ray? Go ahead, Mike.
I think it's a delay. Moisture. Some other situation. That's a huge delay.
Yeah, I've been over there as well, and this has been an ongoing.
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
I wonder if we could get him
Hear
on the
me?
phone.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Want me-
Hello?
Mike. It's gonna be a little bit,
Do you want to call him?
yeah. You got it? You want me to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, this has been going on for a long time, ever since we've had moisture. And, okay,
Mike, can he see this?
yeah,
Mike,
you there?
Just call him.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll get you live here. You were on about a 90-second delay.
Okay.
We could hear you fine.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The floor has been a problem for some time. I don't know about any other schools, as Mr. Greenway is referring to. I just know that this floor has been a problem since the days.
Tell him to turn his computer volume off. Okay. Usually just speaking to the phone.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead.
I don't know what you've heard and what you haven't.
We've heard everything you've said.
Okay. And I think that, I'm certainly not opposed to looking at other floors if they have those problems, but I just know that this floor has been an issue for some time. And we had problems with water over there before that had to be fixed. And the solution would be that floating floor, or we're gonna, if you temporarily fix it at $11,740, you're gonna go back and it's gonna be the same thing. So, I just feel like that if you're gonna do it right now rather than going back and having it to do over and over and over. So, and it is a tripping hazard. I've been over there when the kids were there playing, and part of the parquet comes up, and they catch their toe on it. So, to me, it's also a safety hazard as well.
Okay.
Mr. Kegels, is there another situation that, where a floor, here's my thing, we've gotten into this pattern. Remember, I brought up the baseball field, and we all had to go around, we had to give money everywhere, right? So I have no problem with that. If it needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed. But we've gotten into this situation where we've started, looking at all facilities when we have things like this come up. And so I don't know of any of ours, but there may be some in another locale. Are there any, I heard you maybe saying something to Dr. Nicely. I didn't know if there was another location.
There's none that we have done extensive repairs on recently, like we would be considering doing here at Green Valley. Now, I have not seen any at Northside. Somebody mentioned that there might be some in an auxiliary gym over there. That's actually Jill Green calling me. She might be calling me to
Tell you that.
But I had heard that maybe in an auxiliary gym over there might be a floor issue as well. But it hasn't been requested for, extensive repair or anything recently, like we're talking about having to do at Green Valley. It's to my knowledge, it is a scale of job that our guys would do versus calling in a contractor to do. So, but certainly we can look at that and see if there's.
So the issue
others.
is, for 7 years, I've been saying we've got a dead floor at Byrd, right? Then we know we've fixed the auxiliary gym a few times. We did get the middle school replaced. And of course Brent's not here. Cheryl, I don't know if you have any, or David, if y'all have any. I'm just saying, if that's the case, maybe it needs to be looked at, just like the lights at Byrd. Now we got to look at every stadium, right? So if we're looking at this floor, let's look at all the floors, right?
And we can certainly do that. I mean, I can testify that, this is one, because they're individual squares of that parquet floor. I mean, they've had to repair it over and over again. I've seen the individual squares that are marked right now. They've marked them with tape just so that nobody trips over it, like his and so forth. So it's.
Mr. Kegels, how long did we go at William Byrd Middle trying to get that one fixed?
We did, and
We
it was the
did.
same situation.
Yeah.
It was picking up in different places all the time, and it was just a constant cycle
That's
of
right.
repair. That's exactly the condition that Green Valley's in now.
Needs to be fixed. Do we just do that one, or do we look at
Mr.
any?
Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ray.
well, I'm fine with the way that Mr. Greenway is going, but I understand if a child goes over and trips and gets hurt, then we're going to say, okay, we know about it, we know there's a problem. Maybe we don't know some of the others, but we know there's a problem there, so we're not going to correct it, and a child gets hurt, and then everybody's listening to this, and they're saying, well, you did it, and you didn't fix it, so they tripped on that, so I'm going to sue you. So I just feel
I agree with you 100%.
Yes,
And-
it's fine if we want to go and look at other schools. I'm totally agree with that. But there's a situation here that I think that a child gets hurt. We know that I've seen it happen, and I know we got, to do something about it. So
All I'm saying in this situation is, I get it, and I agree. But when somebody brings another school up, like we've done a couple times here, and we have to go to every school because that one school's getting fixed what needs to be fixed, we can't use that excuse only when it's convenient. We have to, either we're gonna do this every time, or we're gonna work together, agreeing that we have a problem at one of these schools.
did I say that I wasn't going to work with you, Tim?
No, you didn't, but.
I didn't.
But when we have-
We got a situation here that I know where there's a tripping hazard and a child can get hurt tomorrow.
I agree, it needs to be fixed.
And I just feel like that if there's other schools, yes, I'm totally for that. I'm not saying that one school against another school. All I'm saying is I know where this is and what's happening now.
Agreed. When resistance comes up and when it's brought forward by some folks on our board, I just hope you'll feel the same way. That's all I'm saying.
I made my commitment right here, so.
Thank you. I'm
Okay.
good.
Good.
Based on what I think I've just heard today, do we need to keep all the students off the floors until it's repaired? I mean, I would hate to do that to the students, but based on what I have just heard,
Could I make a comment?
you may.
So I was there during gym today, which was actually a pretty good time to be there. And I think the gym teacher did a really good job adapting her activities to the floor. It was all taped, and she had them on these little scooters, and they were kind of propelling themselves along. So they were using their feet on the scooters, so there wasn't an issue with tripping. And we also have rec sports that are going in there, right? Basketball season. We've got a lot of other kids who are using that facility as that school outside of our school. So I think legitimately, we do have a very big safety issue. And Tim, I agree with you. You know, I agree with you, but as things come up, I think as a board together, we have to address them when they come up. Because we
totally
don't know of
agree.
any other.
That's,
And
we
when,
have-
when we were dealing with the field issue, it seemed like, well, hold on a second, I have an issue. So then we came together as a team and we solved those problems. So I'm really proud of that, and I think we can continue to do that and work together. I just think when we kind of end up pitting one school against each other, it just
No,
doesn't
I don't, I
serve,
agree. I
right?
think
Yeah.
we need to fix it, like
Yeah.
the lights. When the lights come up, we'll see how everybody thinks then.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so, and Mike, you bring up a good point, like, we know about this and we don't do something about it and we wait to go and assess all those floors, we've got time that's elapsed, it's just not acceptable.
did, how long would it take to fix this floor if we shut the floor down?
To repair it or to replace it?
To replace it?
It's going to take a while because, like everything in construction right now, there's a long lead time on getting the wood flooring. I think he said probably at least 10 weeks from the time he orders it to the time he'll, have all the materials on hand. And then it'll only take him a week or two to actually do the installation, but it'll take a while. Plus, that'll
Should
still
we-
have to go through
Should we
procurement.
take it out of the circulation of Parks and Rec and whether or not they could use the floor? Because I certainly don't want to say that we're going to limit our students and then we're going to let Parks and Rec come in and trip on them.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Will they
How long would
participate?
it possibly take to repair?
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he can do the repair. If you were just going to repair the floor and not replace it, I think he could do the repair probably in less than a week. It's not, he would use, so the fellow that did the repairs at William Byrd saved the flooring that he took up, the pieces of it, just for such an occasion. And he would try to reuse some of that, and, it's not that long of a process for him to pick it up, glue it back down. They had to kind of have to custom sand the little pieces so that they all fit back in flat, but, a week probably.
So I'm good with, let's not patch, let's fix it like it needs to be fixed. I just, if we can do it, to me, we did it in middle school. To me, it's senseless to go in and patch it 100 times when we can fix it right now and be done. I get it, there's no money tree. But, some of these things have needed to be dealt with for a long time.
Well, obviously, water is an issue. And it's
Absolutely.
going to continue to be an issue, so, just like,
Right. So it's just like, I'm gonna throw this out here and y'all can
Yeah.
get me for throwing in a zinger, but it's just like getting these 2 elementary schools fixed, and we had the opportunity to keep the pressure on then, and we folded. I'm good with getting this fixed. I digress, but
My concern is, do we spend 14.4 now and get it fixed in a week so they have a gym floor to use? Or now that we've made so many comments here about the fact that it's not safe and it's a safety hazard and everything else, I mean, I personally wouldn't feel good about putting kids out on that floor if we're gonna sit here and talk about what a safety hazard is. Do we spend 14.4 now and then schedule a replacement shortly thereafter so that they can use the floor?
I mean, they're currently using it, and I think as long as the PE teachers are marking the floor and, taking the appropriate steps, I think the rest of the floor is safe to use. I don't think it's a matter of having to close it down in the short term. And we could probably, if everything goes according to plan and materials come in and all that, get it done so that it wouldn't impact Parks and Rec, because they don't start basketball until,
November.
it's in late November, right? Seems like the Parks and Rec season is, I don't know exactly what their schedule is, but It's been a while, it's in the winter.
I think it's middle of November, somewhere just before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, right around Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah, so, ideally, if everything came in and we decided right away, we would try to get the floor done so that it had minimal impact on the Parks and Rec schedule.
Okay.
Would Roanoke County participate in any of that?
I don't know, we can ask.
I mean, they certainly use it as much as we do. And I get that it's a school property, but anyway.
I think we could ask. I think that's certainly a good suggestion. We can ask, plus, if we go ahead and move forward on it, but then ask that, hey, we just replaced the floor, we need, can you go half on us or something?
I would hate to delay it, waiting.
Well, could we not approve it with the thought that we're gonna ask Parks and Rec?
Yeah, we got to ask.
I mean, we have to work
Okay.
together, right?
Because what's come through.
Just ask this
and all
to-
that,
Just ask that question today about, football field, so,
Yeah.
yep.
All right.
It certainly does contribute to the wear and tear of a floor.
Absolutely.
Well, that they,
She said it does contribute to the wear and tear of the floor,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec,
yeah,
when they
it
use it.
does. Sure it does. I used to practice over there.
Yeah, my boys practice.
We do have an agreement with them, though, that we use some of their facilities as well and don't pay for them. So,
They do have a matching funds program. I don't know if that would apply here or not, where there's a limit on that. I think it's $5,000 or so, but they do have a matching funds program. for
Anything we can
facility
get, something.
improvement. Might be
We can
something.
still ask, right?
Yeah.
we don't want to start charging them and then have them start charging us, I don't think.
They're charging us for mowing and everything. What would,
No, I'm talking about field usage and stuff.
Well, and we were discussing before the meeting started, just to do an analysis of that, to kind of see where the current balance is in terms of,
How many of our facilities they use and how many of
Just
their
for
facilities do we
information,
it's a
use?
good idea.
I think that's excellent.
It's a good idea.
How much time? How much time they use versus our time?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Kegels there?
No. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item number 2.04, Fort Lewis Modular Classroom.
We were asked to price what it would cost to put a modular classroom in at Fort Lewis Elementary. And there was some thought that we were no longer allowed to use the older trailers. That, in fact, is not correct. I was able to talk to the head building inspector yesterday, and we can use the previously owned mobile units. There's some conditions, but the ones that we would be looking at buying would fit those conditions. So it's about $180,000 to get a new one. That includes the fire and the data and the ramps and everything you need to install it. And installing the used one, I spoke to the gentleman this afternoon, it's still available. They've got one. The ones that we just recently bought and installed at the 4 elementary schools, they are no longer available. They've sold all of those. But they have one other one that we could get that's used, and it would be about $105,000, all inclusive. That's the ramps, all the data, fire alarms, everything you need to get one up and running.
Is that comparable to what we paid for the other ones, all inclusive?
According to the fellow that we bought them from, now I didn't see that paperwork myself, but this one is about $3,000 more on the initial cost, and then you add the ramps and all that stuff.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And these are new educational cottages, or Classrooms.
180,000 is new, 105,000 used.
He may be asking,
I
is
think
this replacing a current one, or is this an
Yeah.
additional one
Yeah.
that doesn't exist already?
is it replacing any?
No, it is a new,
No.
they,
Okay.
they feel as though they need one.
Oh, okay.
The situation at Fort Lewis, this is a request, and I talked to Mr. Hudson about this yesterday. I don't mean to speak for him, but, is it needed? I mean, it'd be nice for them to have, currently their music classroom, music is like at, Clearbrook and, like Lincoln
Back
down
Creek.
here, Back Creek, it's out in the mobile units, but it is a dedicated space for it, for all their things. Fort Lewis, I believe, she has to move from classroom to classroom. Do I have that right, Ms. Hogan?
Right now.
Yeah, so it's a shared kind of space, so it'd be nice to have a dedicated space. At the end of the day, in terms of, can we do it right now, I think that's a decision we're gonna have to make. It's not a safety issue, it doesn't fall into that category. I mean, I would certainly affirm that it'd be nice for them to have it. Is it critical? I think we have to try to look at our bank account here and decide, what we can do. That's kind of my view of it.
Any other questions?
So new or used the used would be okay, or is it in rough shape?
It would be in similar condition to the ones that we just put in. It's in New Jersey. I've seen photographs of it. It's kind of like buying a car online. They send you pictures of it and all that. I've seen the pictures. It looks about like the ones we have. They're, they're okay.
And that might be a factor to consider. You can get this one now, right? If you wait, you miss that opportunity. That might factor into the decision.
Well, this is an education. I mean, even if it's an arts, it is educational, right? And so, if we're willing to spend on these other items, I can't imagine that, as much as I hate to see us not have the facilities that we need and the room that we need for these classes, I mean, I think they do need it, so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, we sort of missed the days of the $65,000 trailers. Back in the day, when we used them at Cave Springs. So, but still, this is a situation that, the other schools had needed these things. They've had them, they've fallen apart. We replaced those, now you got a need here, so I think there is a need, and I mean, I think the used would certainly be comparable. Maybe used would be the same as what the others would be, I guess, right?
I'm good with
Is that right,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Cagle?
Comparable to the other ones we have.
Yes,
that we
similar to what
Yes.
we've recently purchased.
Right. And I will say,
Okay.
and I'll speak for him, after speaking to Mr. Hudson, I don't think he would have any qualms, at all of, going the used route versus trying to go I don't think he would have any issue with that.
Well, then I think we need to proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I made the push, Mike and I both worked together, we made the push for Back Creek's trailer. It was in disrepair, it was horrendous. It was safety issues, everything else. Then there were other trailers that we found out that we needed. I know Brent is a little late to the party, but if he feels like there's a need, and a classroom need, I would like to support him on that. I think it's hard for other schools to get trailers that they need and then to tell Fort Lewis, well, you don't need them. I haven't gone to look at what the basement looks like, but my understanding is that he feels like, and you could correct me, Ken, I don't know if this is true or not, but they've lost some teachers because these music teachers have to continually move their instruments in and out, in and out, in and out.
Right.
And, music is part of our curriculum, and it is important, and to kind of treat them as, well, you can move your stuff, but we're not asking other teachers to move their stuff in and out. It's just as important, so.
It certainly impacts what you can do instructionally when you're having to move around all the time. I say that 30 years ago, my first year teaching, I was on a cart, 3 different classrooms, so,
No, I don't know
You
how.
survived
easy.
and you turned out okay?
I did, but still,
That's
Well,
his
the
answer to
music
everything.
folks
You
have a
turned out
lot of-
okay.
But the music folks have a lot of, materials and paraphernalia and instruments, right, that they're trying to.
Well, and I don't know, do we have other schools where we have traveling music teachers?
I think they all have dedicated spaces. Yeah, I think all the other ones have a dedicated space.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Ray.
I'm sorry I'm butting in, but I don't know, I can't hear through the other thing. So, I'd like to ask Mr. Cagle a question to make sure, you know, both of the ones that we got used and put in, they leaked. You know, the doors, around the doors. Can you ensure that we're not gonna get one that leaks and we're gonna have to repair it?
Well, no is the answer. I can't ensure that because, like I said, it's kind of like buying a used car. You know, you buy it and you go up there and they drag it down here and you've already bought it at that point. And if it leaks, it has to be repaired. And that's what we're doing. They're actually finishing the punch lists on those other trailers, which includes sealing those doors in the next couple of days. I think almost all of it's done except skirting on one trailer now. But certainly there's the potential when you're buying something, you know, used like that and then you're dragging it up and down the interstate, you know, you get things that are bent and tweaked a little bit and doors and door frames are part of that. So we would repair it. I mean, that is part of so when we pay for it, it is guaranteed to be weather tight. And so they have to make those repairs after they're here if they leak, but I can't guarantee you that it's going to arrive in that condition.
But they have to fix them.
repair it.
Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
fix it.
They have to fix them?
They have to fix it, yes.
Oh, okay, I just want that 30-day warranty or whatever they have. If you get a warranty on a car, you certainly ought to have warranty that this isn't gonna leak. So,
Yes, sir, they have to fix it.
okay.
Well, that's,
Mr. Chairman, does the Amtrak go to New Jersey?
I don't believe so.
You could send Mr. Cagle on a field trip.
I heard there's a lot of exits in New Jersey.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, I'm a Jersey girl, you know that, right?
I can't hear, so I couldn't laugh. So whatever.
We're just joking, Mike. You're not missing
We're
much.
kidding
Okay.
Cheryl.
It's just Cheryl humor.
Cheryl humor. That's hilarious.
So,
I say we move.
Dr.
with-
Nicely, you mentioned that you don't see this as an immediate need?
I can't sit here, you know, and tell you, you know, like this is an immediate safety concern or something like that. I mean, I certainly endorse the need. Like we had said, it's the only, you know, elementary school without a designated space. It would certainly much improve the instructional space. You know, I guess we would have to, you know, bring it to the board to say, you know, you see what our balance is. You know, are you comfortable with that? And I think it comes down to that.
Okay.
Susan's over here going,
Yeah, one question I just raised a point. So this does not include whatever our 1/3 of surplus will be for this year, right? In other words, if we have a million, 2 million, whatever it is, we don't know
have not
that.
closed
Right.
fiscal year 22.
Okay, I just want to make
I'm
sure.
hoping to be able to bring that surplus to you in October.
And we gotta have some idea, close, ballpark right now.
I don't right now, no.
You don't have a 2
We're working
million,
on journal entries and cleaning
nothing.
things up, and so, no.
But,
I knew you were gonna ask
but to
that.
your point, come November, when that does happen, you know, this fund should be replenished in some fashion. We have no idea how much, but this, I mean, there should be some additional coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I mean, for whatever it's worth, just, you know, because I like it's my job to say it, I mean, you know, I appreciate Ms. Peterson giving the history of this and kind of, I mean, 'cause I do get concerned if we get it too low, we have a boiler go out somewhere and that kind of thing we have to fix. But also look back 5, 6, 7, 8 years and see what we ended years with and think, well, gosh, if we had invested in some of these repairs, you know, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have so many now, you know, in terms of leaving funds on the table. So it's a balance, right?
Well, if we don't have an idea, which we got, I mean, we did have some idea because we knew it from a conversation, it wasn't gonna be 10 million that, you know, had been tossed around by our counterparts. We know, because I asked that question and that was off the table. So we gotta have some crazy ballpark number.
I've not
2
run
point-
trial ballots to know that.
Somewhere between
2.3
0 and 5 million, right?
But you feel,
And
I mean, to his point, you feel certain it's not gonna be 8, 10 million.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I
All right.
cannot, I honestly have not run the trial
If
balance.
it's 8 or
to
10
see-
million, I feel no problems getting this. But we need to do it right, because if we patch these things 10 or 12 times, we're throwing money out the door.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. So we'll get that information in October, Susan?
That's, yes.
So would it be prudent to table this until October to see what we're looking at? What are the chances that we find another, I mean, are we going to lose this? There's another one going to come up on the market? Do you follow cottages?
I don't follow the use.
Cottage.
All I know is this is the fellow, the company that we have the contract with and that we've usually used, and that he has one used one currently. All the others, we either purchased those for, and then the others were sold to other people. So, I mean, they are for sale to the public, so there's certainly that potential that it could be lost.
Does Salem High School have any over there that, now that their project's about done?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Could we start to look around and we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot? That might be a good idea, just to see what the market looks like.
I will say, I reached out to some modular, so they're not trailers, they're ones that are built on site, but they're modular buildings.
Oh.
And it really, the cost was gonna be probably twice as much. You're looking at $220,000 instead of, $105. But permanent structures, not trailers that you would need to replace every so often, and, better looking buildings, but obviously the money is a limiting factor. But I will see what else is available.
Any other comments, questions?
What was the comment Mr. Cagle said? Summarize it.
Just that we could do more permanent structures than these, but the cost would be significantly more. We'd be talking about double.
There's an option
the
for a more
cost.
permanent structure, but it's double the cost.
Oh,
And that used one, let's be honest, it's probably not going to be here in 30, 45 days if we pass it up. I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so,
Yeah, and they have the need. It's not my area. I wish Brent were here, but I
they
think.
do have the need.
Oh, right, that's exactly. So I feel like we ought to just move
I feel
forward
like,
with that.
yeah, Mr. Hudson would definitely support it.
Right, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, then we just, I mean, if your gut tells you there might not be, that's why I was saying we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot.
That's my intuition.
Yeah, and then you're $1 short once again, and you got nothing. I'm not driving to New Jersey again.
Do we need to make a proposal here? Is that what we're saying, to get this done?
We can vote on it next week.
If they'll hold the trailer. I make a proposal that we get the used trailer for Fort Lewis. I mean, a motion that we get the used trailer for Fort Lewis.
I can second that.
So we have a motion and a second on the table.
Oh, we've discussed in the past that we were not gonna make decisions here at work sessions.
And we did, but we sent 2 elementary schools down the river, so I'm okay with it. We've got a motion and a second on the table. But I'm good with whatever the chairman says.
Can we ask you to talk to the guy this afternoon maybe, or tomorrow?
Sure.
I mean, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
And just see where we're at, Tim, to see if we don't lose it. Maybe we could put it on hold and do our meeting?
It's
Good
fine
faith?
with me. It's fine with me.
But just to be clear, I mean, he's, in another state, and people will tell you stuff all the time. Oh, yeah, we'll hold it for you. And then somebody shows up with cash and they buy it and it's gone. So-
Brent, no, I was here for you, buddy.
I don't want to go against the rules again and end up in the Roanoke Times.
Nobody had a problem dropping 2 elementary schools in one of these meetings, and we got a
This is
problem
true.
now?
This is true.
And I'm not
Good
making a
Lord.
recommendation that you need to do that. I'm just making sure you understand that
So,
if you don't, and then they sell it, there are no guarantees without us paying for it.
There are no guarantees when you call them tomorrow morning, it's gonna be.
That's true.
That's
Could have sold it this afternoon.
Mike, what say you?
Mr. Chairman, clarify, we have a motion on the floor and a second.
We did have a motion on the floor
And a second.
and a
It
second.
wasn't,
But they just haven't.
okay.
And now we were having debate.
Okay.
Don't want to get in the way of your process. But I was just checking, we think we can issue a PO even if you appropriate the money next week. So we think we can move forward with it. I mean, you know, just to,
If it's voted on next week?
right.
What it would end up being is, much to Mr. Cagle's consternation, we would have to use funds that are already available, and the funds in his general fund would be something he could go ahead and issue the purchase order in the general fund, and then we can move the actual transaction over to the minor capital fund after it is approved by the school board.
I would be comfortable with that, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Ray.
can you make sure that they talk into the mic, okay, please?
Where are things coming through there, right? Chuck?
I'm sending audio out, and the virtual stream is sounding beautiful.
The audio Chuck is sending out, he says sounds beautiful, so it may be on your end, Mike.
Is he, Mr. Ray, are you only
I'm
hearing us
phone.
through your phone, or are you hearing us through the feed?
No, they still fuzzy with the feed for the
I think we can
laptop.
hear through that.
But anyway, just, I just want to make sure. Did Susan say we had 2.3 million surplus?
No, Susan said that she has no idea how much surplus we have. It could be somewhere between 0 and
20
knows?
million.
Yeah.
how much.
You all as a board do what you want in terms of how you want to handle this, but if you're, would rather, not do the action thing, because the
Oh, I'm
agenda,
glad we-
whatever, I just want you to know there is an option, we can move forward.
We've
Pay
got a
for it.
moral compass now. I love it. We've got a moral compass
And for
now
the record-
that we can't get a used trailer for a school that or educational cottage for a school that needs it, but we can take 2 elementary schools off our ask for the Board of Supervisors.
We did not vote on that here in the work session,
Where'd we vote?
for the record,
In the regular meeting.
in a regular
Well,
meeting.
But we made the decision right
Yeah,
here.
it's kind of like here now, though.
Yeah, so, yep.
I'm comfortable, Mr. Chairman, with the PO order, because I don't think there's any love lost. It looks like we can move forward with it, do what we need to do. I know that puts Todd probably in an uncomfortable position. Todd will never do me any favors again.
It'll be okay.
But I think it'll be
He
okay.
looks good in orange.
So are you withdrawing your second? Or are we
I
gonna
was
go
here
ahead
for
and
you,
vote on
Brent.
this?
Just remember
Oh,
that.
that's not true, Tim. That's not true.
I think we're all here for Brent.
We're all here for Brent, and we're gonna get it done. It's just the avenue that we take. And I think we can hit it on the head with doing it the way that Susan just recommended. And that's why she won the award.
And if you come back next week and say, oh my gosh, what did you do? We did not vote for that, then we have you recorded here that you
That's right.
said it was okay.
This is the most unbelievable setting. But yep, whatever.
Anybody having
Let's
fun
move
yet?
on. Let's move on so we can get
Yeah, I
out of
can
here.
rescind it.
Rescind your motion?
No, I'm not rescinding it.
Okay.
No,
Sorry, Brent, we're gonna do it this way.
yeah.
I think we'll still get there.
But you rescinded the second, so you don't have a second, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there you go. So you can still get around not voting on it.
We've said in the past we were not going to bring things up and vote on them here. I don't know why we would change that today.
that's
Item
a-
number 2.05, Oak Grove additional
Don't
security
give me a
fencing.
chance to speak, thank you.
Mr. Kegels.
So you guys have already approved funding for this fencing diagram up here, both the blue and the red, which takes the fence from the front of the building along the parking lot and then back to the backstop at the baseball field there. The principal has asked us to extend that fencing, which would cost about another $5,000. There's actually a walking track where that additional fencing would go, and she would like to separate the walking track from the wooded area. They've had some issues with maybe homeless folks and things in that area, and so she would like us to extend the fencing, but there'll be an additional cost to that.
Have they started on that?
They have ordered materials for the fence, but they have not started. It's the first one of the 9. It will be the first one to go in.
Any questions?
I'll just make a comment. when it comes to safety, and we've got vagrants very close to our children, I think we put up a fence. I don't think any dollar amount, I mean, it's really not, I mean, of course, every dollar counts, but it's not a significant cost to protect our children, so I would support that.
Any questions? Mr. Ray, any questions?
No,
We're
sir.
looking at the fence there at Oak Grove.
Yeah,
It's an
just-
additional $4,000?
We price it at $5,000, but there'll probably be a little bit left over at 5,000. Which gets returned, to the reserves if we don't use it.
Do we need to vote on that today? No. Oh, sorry.
Only if it's elementary schools, we can't do it otherwise.
We'll add that to the agenda for next week. Thank you.
it's not near as much fun as being there. Oh, man.
Item number 2.06, stadium lighting.
Okay, so we were asked to examine the stadium lights, and then we were actually initially asked to do it at William Byrd and Northside, and then Dr. Nicely asked us to go ahead and do it at Glenver and Bogle for comparison purposes.
Then we have to go around the
So-
circuit.
What's that?
We have to go around the circuit once Bird asks for it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, I know you'd ask, so you might as well go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So I went out there at night and got the lights on, and we used a digital light meter and went around and measured. The actual document is attached there in board docs. We took 4 measurements on the back line, the goal line, the 25, 50, and then the same thing on the other end of the field. And then came up with an average light level measured in foot candles. William Byrd High School, the average is a little over 12, Northside's about 15. Glenver High School's 16 and a half or so, and Bogle's the best one at 26.9, almost 27 foot candles. It's the newest system. The one at Bogle is a nice Musco system. We think it was replaced a couple of years before the building was renovated, so it's the newest one in the county, which is accounts for the light levels. HID lighting, which is what we have at all the stadiums, as the bulbs age, they don't just burn out, they decrease in brightness. And so what you have is, degradation of the bulbs, which brings your light levels down, along with degradation of the lenses and the reflectors as well. So there's several options if you were so inclined to do something about it. One is to install LED lights at a cost of about $200,000 at Byrd, $170,000 at Northside, if you looking at just those 2 schools, plus whatever it would cost us to recondition the poles, which is basically painting them. There's, they're rusty and there's paint peeling off of them, that kind of thing. Another option is to install a brand new. That's for a retrofit system. That's where they take LED fixtures and install them onto the current poles. A new LED system, which would mean new poles, and then they would, obviously have new LED lights on them, would run about $265,000. And then the third option is to relamp the current HID systems, which are really means just change all the bulbs. The problem with changing all the bulbs is that because the reflectors and the lenses are also degraded, you're only still going to get about 20-foot candles. Like at Byrd, the projected level would be about 20-foot candles if we do all new bulbs for $35,000.
So what's your recommendation?
I think it depends on your goals. If your goal is to improve the current lighting, and it is a little dark at both Northside and Byrd, you could relamp it for $35,000, and it'll be better. It'll be significantly better. I mean, 20, you have to think in terms of percentages, not necessarily just in terms of the absolute number in the differences of the foot candles, but think in terms of the percentages. You're going to almost double the amount of light that you have at Byrd right now. But I should also say there's no guarantee. The projection is 20-foot candles. But for relamping, they basically had to make a guess. Techline is the folks who did that for us, using some software based on the age of the reflectors and that kind of thing, for what we would likely get. But there's no guarantee you're getting 20 if you do that. That's what they think you'll probably get. Could be more, but you might relamp and get a little less than that. Also, if you go with a new LED system, well, the light levels are guaranteed. And they're guaranteed for 10 years at those prices. If you pay more, you can get a longer guarantee, but at those prices, they're guaranteed for about 10 years.
When you say retrofit, you mean use the poles that are there and retrofit the lamps to the poles that are there?
Yeah, they'd actually, in the case, the reason Byrd is a little bit more expensive than Northside is because at Byrd, they're old enough that they would lay them down, and then they would have to also replace the crossbars where the lights are actually mounted. At Northside, they would use the existing crossbars, and that's why it's $30,000 cheaper.
Do they have to turn on each pole at Northside like they do at Byrd?
They do.
Okay.
And
Can you
at
fix
Glenville
that?
as well.
Can
It
you-
would be fixed as part of the new. If you go LED, it would be fixed. If you go relamp, it would not be fixed for that price. There'd have to be some additional, and I don't know what that would be, but they basically install wireless switches so that when you turn one on, it causes all of them to turn on. And I don't know what the cost of that part would be.
How about a savings of electricity?
That's what I was gonna
It's not insignificant on the LEDs. It's about half the electricity that you use. Now, what we use during a game, I don't know, we were actually talking about that before we came over. We're gonna get a pre and a post measurement from a game here sometime soon, and then calculate out the rate that we pay and see what it actually costs us to light the field, for a football game, and then we might have some idea what the savings would be. But you're talking about a very long return on investment.
Sure.
There.
So, two more questions. One is, you say we redid Bogle a few years before the middle school was renovated, probably a part of their renovation, I'm assuming, or no?
No, it was actually done prior to
So they
that.
did that outside the scope of the school?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Is that the county? Is that what you mean? The county did it?
No,
I assume the
Parks and
county
Rec.
school system did.
school
The
system.
school system did
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So, again, are we any different? I think we, deserve similar. I hate spending that kind of money. But, we have two schools that use it too. Ours just happens to be a middle school. So, how much do we have left in contingency? That was the second.
Well, the contingency was $800,000 to start, and then about 120 of that was used in modifications in the cafeteria, some lighting and ceiling changes. And right now, that's the only thing that is planned to come out of contingency. But it looks like there's probably going to be some additional furniture and stuff that's needed, maybe another $50,000 or so out of the contingency.
So we have a good amount of the contingency that we could actually, if we wanted to do something at the Byrd site for that. I mean, I'm not.
Could.
Well, it's
Is
certainly.
that major capital contingent? I mean, obviously, it's that project, and it's earmarked toward that project, and not toward another project made just because it's at the same school. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I mean, the contingency
For the construction project.
for the construction project, I mean, is it for a major, normally this would come from minor capital? And that
Normally.
money, if it left over, could go back into, well, I know we used up a lot at the end right there at Cave Spring. We went from two plus million down to, what did we end up with? Mike, you may know better than I.
Nothing.
Nothing?
I think though, in all seriousness, I think with this design build process, by design, we've not seen all the change orders, right? We
Saved a lot of
shouldn't see
money.
as many, so I don't think you're gonna be in that same
That's a big
situation as Cave
difference.
Spring.
Right.
With the different process.
Right.
And I guess my question is, why can't we use contingency money I mean, I don't, you know, if this is something that we feel like you're, you know, $800,000 is a lot of money, that you think that, you know, you're gonna have other needs, and you've already listed some, so why wouldn't you think this would fit under that? Certainly, some way this could fit under the contingency.
Yeah, I think maybe to your point, replacing the stadium lights was not part of the original scope, but certainly that's up to you guys in terms of expanding that. And I think in terms of can we, the answer is yes, we can.
Well, I know, and I appreciate that, Mike. I know Mike will support me in this, and Brent has already expressed that he would support. So I'd like to do that to get the bird lights taken care of.
A couple other questions on this. I know that 15.35 foot candles, there were still three lights out at Northside?
There are.
And it may have been an embellishment, but I was told that William Byrd had half of their lights were already out.
There's four.
Four,
There's
okay.
4 bulbs out there.
So it's not
Three
quite
at the-
half.
Yeah.
So the 12.08 might go up. I mean, if those 4 bulbs were replaced, it might go up slightly.
It
but
would
not
go, it
significantly.
would go up slightly, but what you see when you go around and take the measurements is it's very specific to the areas of the field. Like at Northside, there is one area there that's dark, and it happens to be that the 3 lights that are out are all essentially
next to each
focused
other.
on the same, yes,
Yeah.
focused on the same spot. So it would improve it some. But you're not going to get anywhere close to 26, you know, our best one. You're not going to get anywhere close to it.
And even if you replace those 4, the others have started diminishing, so
That's right. They've all degraded. You're not going to get, you know, I can't say how much without, you know, having it and taking measurements, but it's not going to be that big of a difference.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
does that LED give you the candle power, that extra candle power that you need?
Oh, yeah.
50, it goes,
I didn't
yeah,
hear
it would be
earlier.
extremely bright, yes.
You might need to wear sunglasses at night. I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. Fisher.
So the relamp for 35,000, I'm just curious, what's the warranty on that versus the retrofit? I think you said 10 years?
Yeah, they don't warranty the HID bulbs in terms of output. So the LEDs, they'll guarantee, you know, a certain percentage of their brightness at a certain number of years, but they don't do that with the HID bulbs. The HID bulbs are being phased out, and so the ones they're able to get still are the ones that have already been manufactured.
So you could run into a problem where you're just putting a Band-Aid and another Band-Aid, and you're redoing it every 3-4 years instead of going with a product that you know you've got contingency money for, and you could do it in one fell swoop and be done.
Yeah, eventually the HID bulbs won't be available at all.
Right. So,
I guess my question for you all, would you consider, since we do have the construction project going, and so, yeah, we do have those funds available for Bird, doing that, and also, you know, let's spend the money to at least replace bulbs that are burnt out, right, at Northside. I mean, would you consider going that direction?
Yeah, we'd replace those bulbs anyway at Northside. It's expensive because you have to have, you know, a company come in that specializes in that because of the height of the poles. So it's expensive to replace bulbs. So you wait till several of them are out, you get them up here and replace all of them at the same time. So certainly replacing the bulbs at, the ones that are out at Northside, we're going to do that anyway, so.
I would be in favor of that, Tim. I think it needs to get done.
So we
Yeah,
go the
Mr. Chairman.
retrofit route? Is that what we're saying?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to hear Mr. Greenway, but, you know, because this is taking some of his contingency money, so.
Well,
So, Mike, I want to see it get done. It's, if you've ever been down there, and it's for soccer, lacrosse now, and football, girls and boys soccer. So we have all of our teams playing on that one field, and we've even now had to start playing some, but I don't know if that's because of lacrosse, but on the practice field. So I'd like to get it done right. And if the retrofit, if Mr. Kegels thinks that's okay, I'm okay with that, but if you think we need to do the, you know, the new LED system, you know, I'll go with what you think, but,
I'm just wondering if, you know, you do it right now, or you do it, or you're gonna have to do something later.
that's kind of what
I
we're
mean,
talking
that
about.
might be a question for Mr. Cagle, but I just, you know, to me, we do it right the first time, then we don't go back, plus we're saving over time. I know it takes time to catch up with LEDs, but still, you're gonna save on electricity over time. Exactly, right?
So can I ask you a question? I think I might be confused. I thought the only difference with the retrofit versus the new was the polling.
It is basically.
It is basically, so
But it
the,
would have additional fixtures on the new poles because the new poles can support more weight. So if you reuse the old poles, you can't put as many lights up
Oh,
because
I
they
didn't know
won't
that.
support the additional wind loads.
I did not
Oh.
know that.
Yeah, maybe I'm not getting half the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He
I'm
said
sorry.
that the new system requires new poles because it would have more lights and would get at 50-foot candles, which is twice as bright as Bogle currently. The
And
retrofit, because of the current poles, would not support as many lights, but would still get you to 44-foot candles, which is still, Bogle's at 26.93.
Well,
So-
and we should probably add here that according to TechLine, the difference between 44 and 50 is probably not visible to the naked eye unless you were to see them side by side. So there's not, in the functional light level, there's not a difference between 44 and 50. Now, I will also add, though, that the poles are in very bad shape at Byrd. I mean, you have giant chunks of stuff peeling off of them. So if you do the retrofit, it wouldn't be smart while the poles are down not to have them reconditioned. So there's some additional cost to reconditioning them, but I don't have that information for us tonight.
Oh.
So you're saying more than the 200, there'd be an additional cost to recondition them?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh,
First-
you mean
But that's on
plus?
both.
I got you. I was
That's
thinking
on
that
both, yeah.
included. Well, I got you.
I actually have that up there beside the new, but that's not right. The new LED
Oh.
system would not require any pole.
That's why I was confused.
Yes, I thought that too.
That was just a
Yeah,
mistake.
okay. Is that correct?
Okay.
What
That's-
pole reconditioning? get
Pole
replaced?
reconditioning would not be needed on the new system.
No.
Okay.
It would,
Good.
I'm gonna base it on what a fellow that is looking to paint that stadium now quoted us to paint the poles at, you're probably looking at, for all four poles, less than $10,000.
So we're talking
Poles can
about
be-
50 years that we've gotten out of these lights, essentially, right? I mean,
Well,
they're
and the
the
poles.
original poles and lights.
So my question is, at what point do you say to yourself, for an extra 10 grand, you're gonna get that much more bang for your buck and get new poles versus reconditioning those poles?
You're not asking the right person, and not with Susan in the room too, because, I'm all about doing things right and doing them well. And if money were not an option, or not an obstacle, I would, yeah, sure, I'd put new poles. I mean, it would look better, it'll look better longer. They'll probably be like a concrete pole, like you have over at the baseball stadium at Burr, which lasts forever and look good forever, you don't paint them. But it's a lot of money, and Susan's already told us that, we don't have a lot of money, so.
But this isn't coming out of minor capital, this is coming out of contingency, which we have built into the project.
Right, so,
Not that
Yeah.
makes it any less important, in spending. But if we're gonna do this, and we may only get this crack for another 50 years, I think you have to weigh that as well.
I
Mike?
agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, well, then I'm shutting
mean-
up and moving on. Thank y'all.
Well,
Now, are we doing anything at Northside? Did I miss that?
do you want to consider?
We haven't decided anything
I
yet.
feel like the fiscal
Oh, I got you.
responsibility
Okay.
piece here, maybe we should think about this. I'm nervous about, spending a large chunk of the contingency before the project is completed. You could consider waiting until the end, it's supposed to be done. This won't, we can't put up the lights during football season anyway. I mean, it wouldn't be done prior to, well, it'd probably be, if we decided now, it would be done prior to soccer season. So you could give up one soccer season with the new lights and wait until the construction project is finished and make sure that you really have that much money left in the contingency fund before you decide. And then if you did that, assuming
Well,
that it
and I'm
finishes
good
on
with that.
time.
I'm good with that. But let me tell you my history of dealing with boards. They change. Not necessarily members, but feelings change.
Sure.
I have the ability to, I've got agreement now. I would prefer, if you think that's what we need, Cheryl and Mike are on board. I know Brent is, because he told me, and put it in an email, then I'm okay with going that route.
I just want to be clear, I didn't say that that's what we need.
No,
I just
I got
presented
you.
the options.
Yeah, no. I got you. But if we're going to do it right and not have to do this again, I mean, I don't, if you think, I'm okay with the retrofit or the LED, I'll go with whatever you think on that. I'm just saying one of those options, I feel like, rather than just putting lights in and having to deal with this continually, I would like to fix the problem. We've definitely dealt with it the last 5 or 10 years, deteriorating very, very badly. Sure.
Ask a question.
Yes, sir.
So if the goal were to have them up for next football season, what would be the backward design timeline for
Yeah.
making sure they got installed and all that?
And ordered.
Right.
So the supply chain is unpredictable. And if you wanted to be sure they would be up, keeping in mind there's never any like 100% guarantee, but if you wanted to have the best chance at getting them up before football season next year, you would do it now. Because it all has to go through the procurement procedure. That's going to require a bunch of meetings and having vendors out there and all of that sort of thing. Then materials have to be ordered, then you're looking at installation time and when it can be done around football and soccer and that sort of thing. So when you consider all the constraints, if you want it up for football season next year, you decide it now. And hopefully it'd be up for soccer season this year.
If there are any, if we end up with any contingencies above and beyond that are educational related, and we've gone and spent $265,000 on lights at the stadium, Mike referred to it as your contingency money, but it's really not your contingency money, it's our contingency money. Are you gonna be comfortable with that? If there's an educational need, if we make this decision now, that we can't do because we've spent it on lights.
So you want me to answer a hypothetical?
How much is left, Susan, in the contingency?
How much did you set aside for the cafeteria?
120.
So if you take the 800,000 minus the 120, if you do the 265, that'll leave you 415.
415, and then you said something about $50,000 being in there for tables or something?
Yeah, 365.
Yeah, there's probably at least another, the furniture is over, so the furniture budget was based on Cave Springs' furniture budget. They kind of rolled that forward and increased it just slightly for inflation. But as it turns out, Byrd has more students and, more classrooms and a higher furniture need. So the furniture budget is a little over. It's, I think, about $50,000 over.
And we have the Navy program and a few other things.
Yeah, a few other things. And so I would, if it were me and you wanted to be comfortable, I'd say 75,000 to 100,000 maybe for furniture, just to make sure you've got all additional furniture needs covered. Probably won't need that, but to be sure, probably.
And because we're design build, let's be clear, the contingencies that we've got, we kind of added, Dr. Nicely saw the need in the cafeteria, right? We're seeing the need with the lights. You're seeing the need with the furniture or taming, whatever. But so it's not like this is a part of the construction changed or failed.
Yeah, they're not architectural versus
Right.
contractor misalignments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is probably also gonna come out of it, not that this should factor, because I think we'll be okay, is we anticipate maybe wanting to change out some of the HVAC units, possibly.
Yeah, that's a good point. So at one of the recent construction meetings, Avis identified some things that are not in the current scope of their work that they are making suggestions that we replace, and they are pricing that stuff. We don't have the prices on it yet, but they're seeing some rooftop units that had some long-term issues with water intrusion and things like that, that I don't think we've always done in the past. You've probably heard the term value engineering, which means you leave the old stuff in place as long as it's working, but then you get a brand-new building, essentially, and, you have an HVAC system that still gives you constant problems. So, Avis is recommending to replace a bunch of that stuff, and that would have to come out of the contingency. There's no
Let's
funding
be
for it
clear,
right now.
these weren't put in that long ago, the ones we're replacing, if I'm correct.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know the age of them.
Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah.
Any ballpark from Avis on the price?
No, and what we're doing is they're giving us their recommendation, and then we're having our HVAC guys look at that list to see if they concur with the need to replace those before we make any decisions. So I don't think we're talking about more than $150,000 for all of them. But yeah, you're getting close to the 800
So
issue.
then that would make us at 215 left. So here's what I would
No,
recommend.
it's less than that, isn't it? It's way less than that.
If it was
It's
150 for
435.
HVAC, 265 for this, 120 for the cafeteria, and 100 for furniture, you're at 165.
165, okay. So here's what I'd like to do, is I'd like to ask Mr. Kegels to give us the recommendation of either the retrofit or the new pole system, what your recommendation would be, and then I'd like to come back. Now, you used 265 for this, right?
I did.
Yeah, so that's worst-case scenario. But if you'd make a recommendation and when you bring that next Thursday at the meeting, and then we can, because I can tell you what, obviously, if I've got a Ferrari sitting over here and a Volkswagen sitting over here, I'm gonna want the Ferrari, but I need to know what you think's the best value and gives us what we're looking for functionality for basically 50 years.
But we also need to price out that pole reconditioning, I think.
Yeah, we can do that. So what we'd really like to do on the poles is have them sandblasted and then epoxy coated, because then you're talking about a long-term, fix. That won't be cheap.
And then you may end up bringing the recommendation of the new poles.
And I'm not sure I can make that recommendation. The 44-foot candle system the retrofit is gonna get you what you
Okay.
want lighting-wise. Now, when you go over there and look, and you stand there and look at those poles, they look terrible. I mean, they're terrible.
Well, we need to recondition. If let's not put a pig on a stick. Let's do it right. If you're gonna spend $200,000, I want the poles to look.
Well, sure. And so my recommendation then is if it's gonna be $15,000 or $20,000 to recondition the poles, which it will be to recondition them right, then go ahead and put up new poles.
Okay.
What's
That's
another?
all I need to hear.
At that cost, what's another $30,000 to do it right and do it essentially forever?
And the electrical will be taken care of, and we'll save on the electricity from the,
That's right.
yeah. Okay.
The 200,000 and 170, what's that?
The 170 was north side because they would reuse the crossbars there, so it was cheaper to do theirs.
Gotcha.
And,
Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
yeah, and I want to clarify when you said that about me with the contingency. I understand that it is our money. I just was referring to Mr. Greenway's district, William Byrd. So I don't
Gotcha.
want to have people
Yeah, thank you,
I
Mike.
was telling them his money. So.
Any other questions? Item 2.06, stadium light, oh no, we just did that.
Yep.
Do we have to do it again?
No, please. 2.07, offer to buy Bradshaw Road.
Yeah, Dr. Nicely asked me to just give you guys an update on that offer. We received the offer to buy this parcel of property
Can I tell it?
Oh, sure.
It's kind of fun.
Can I go?
Well, I learned something new. So, so we did get an unsolicited thing in the mail. I think Edie opened it, and it was from some land company that offered to give us $20,000 for some property we owned over across from Mason's Cove, across Bradshaw Road. It's about 4 acres that doesn't have road frontage. There's actually an easement that goes out to it, and then there's about 4 some acres. My first reaction was, didn't even know we had any property over there. And so I gave it to Mr. Kegels to do some research on, and I'll let you take it from here. That was the fun part.
So it turns out that part used to be a sewage lagoon, and when the school was redone several years back, it was turned into a septic field for the school. So the septic is pumped all the way over there through that easement that we have there, that little narrow strip all the way up and back to that lot. So that's the septic field for the school, and so we can't part with that.
Just wanted you to be aware that that land exists and why it exists. That way we all have common universal knowledge of that from now on, so.
Very good.
Was this, excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Ray?
This was unsolicited and it comes like a postcard
The
in
offer,
mail?
yes.
I think I've gotten those before.
Was it on a postcard or was it an actual letter?
It was an actual letter.
Actual letter.
Ken,
Okay, 'cause they.
now we know
they
where the
always-
BS flipped.
This
I
wasn't
got
what-
3 of those postcards myself in the mail today.
We'll buy your
Yeah,
property.
there you go.
Item number 2.08, CTE Center updates.
Yeah, we were just kind of asked to give you a little update on what it is that we're doing. We've, at this point, Balzer and Associates is doing all of the due diligence work. They're also preparing cost estimates for the entire project, as well as the 2 elementary schools that are in discussion. The scope of their work is up there. That's not all-inclusive. There's some other services that they're providing. The contract's actually in board docs there if you're interested in going through and seeing all the individual services they're providing. But they are, the big things, they're preparing a real-world cost estimate and construction schedule to give us an idea how long it would take and how much it would cost, as well as preparing a concept drawing.
Any idea how quickly they'll have that?
Their time frame was 90 days from the time we contracted them, and so it's probably been, 2 or 3 weeks since we contracted, so in the next 2 months.
Excellent. Any questions there?
What was the time frame? I'm sorry.
2 to 3 months, 90 days, approximately 90 days. They've had it 2 or 3 weeks, excuse me.
Gotcha,
So-
thank you.
They're sort of partnering
more
with
weeks.
RRMM for some of the architectural services. We've had some conversations about the Cundiff site, just because of the terrain. They had done some preliminary sketches for us for that. So we just wanted to keep this in front of you and let you know what all was moving forward with that.
Thank you. Thank you for including those 2, the elementary schools.
All right, 2.09, Northside Artificial Turf update. Mr. Kegels, you got the rest of the day, actually.
He hasn't been very busy.
He's enjoying it too.
Yeah, so we became aware that there was some interest in putting artificial turf in at Northside High School, so we went ahead and reached out to the folks that have field turf that have done our other artificial turf fields for updated cost estimates to install artificial turf there, and it's about $1.5 million. Well, and that's really the extent of my update. Nobody had actually requested us to do that. We just got wind that people were interested in doing it, so I wanted you to know how much it was going to cost.
Have they been out and actually looked at the field? Are they basing this on what needed to be done at Glenver? I mean, with the grading that's already been done at Northside, I mean, is that actually feet on the ground seeing what they need, or is that an overhead estimate that they just threw out?
No, they didn't come out, but the process is pretty much, so I've called them 2 additional times that they haven't called me back.
Did they do the original work?
No.
Yeah,
Not the same
to my
company?
knowledge, no.
But that's the same company that did Bird and Glenver.
And so the process is the same regardless of the grading that's already been done, because they're going to come and remove all that dirt. and put in drainage underneath there and, go back through their whole installation process. So it's not really that it's any cheaper based on, what we already have in place there. Now, we could look into having other companies come out and, we would anyway, before we would select, if you decided to do this, before we would select them, we would have it bid anyway. But, on a project of that scale, we have somebody who we know has put in a good product and has done well at the other schools and has performed well over the years. So,
So they didn't
Yeah,
put in
something
the
to consider.
track at Northside? Like, because we had the track put in at Northside with the other two or with Bird at the time, and then, right?
I don't know who put in the track.
Well, so the
It
only
was
reason
done
I
there,
asked that
right.
is, the only reason I asked that is because we even put the curb down for the inside of the track so that when they do the field, they could come right up to the curb.
Yeah, and that is, in their estimate, that the curb is already there.
Oh, so they know that. So this cost, just to update Mr. Linden on the cost, we were at about 800 to 850,000 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, things have gone
Sure,
up.
sure.
I mean, that much, yeah.
Yeah.
I recall some conversations with Mr. Lowe that the drainage was already in place. I mean, they did the drainage that they would need when they redid the field. And it does currently drain very well.
Well, and we had that same conversation, because I thought that that's what had been said too. I think the question mark is, is the current drainage adequate or not? And I think we're hearing different things maybe. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to get them, I've made that attempt since you and I had that conversation 3 different times, and they just haven't gotten back in touch with us yet. But I tell you what I'll do is I'll just continue until we get in touch with them and have that discussion with them, make sure they're aware of everything that's been done to this point, and see if that changes the price. This is just kind of some preliminary, information on what it might cost, but we'll get you, I'll have that conversation with them, and
Okay.
whenever we can do that, we'll have that conversation again.
Ms. Peterson, in the last 30 minutes, have you come up with how much we're going to have on year-end surplus? Is it 1.5 by chance?
No,
I've been
but I
working on it,
can't.
have not found it.
But we can tell you 3 years has cost us about double, but, yeah. What's the next item?
I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to mention this or not, but in all the money we're throwing around, I do think it's important that this is mentioned at some point. Susan and I were talking today about the need to contribute more to our minor capital fund.
Or CMP?
Yeah, there's, in going around the county since I've started in this position, we have a lot of infrastructure needs, a lot of very expensive needs that I don't have any way to do, that we could get them done if we had the money to do them, but we don't have the money currently to be able to do them. I'm talking about $100,000 projects, all over the county that need to be done, and some more expensive than that. And so that is sort of long range. We need to start thinking about contributing more to what we're spending on maintaining the facilities we have. We're doing $35 million renovations on single buildings, but then we have all of these other buildings that need, $250,000 worth of paving, or the crumbling concrete over at Bogle. I mean, you've got all sorts of needs like that are coming up, and if we don't start investing in them soon, we're gonna reach a point where all of a sudden, we're not gonna be able to fix all the things that need to be fixed.
Well, to that point, Ms. Peterson can probably speak to this. When I came on the board, I don't think we started CMP after I came on the board, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't even have that $1 million fund a year.
Yeah, I believe it
We
started in
created that.
2016.
And that
So-
$1 million isn't $1 million anymore.
No, I get it, yeah,
It's
right.
Things are so much more expensive now.
That's what we try to tell our counterparts, we were doing a lot of our capital projects with 2004 money. Now, they've bumped that up now, but the point was, you couldn't do it with 2004 money in 2018, 19,
That's right.
20, so I get it. We do need to look at that.
So back at the beginning, we were still setting aside the 1 million, We just were giving it to the county as part of the capital financing plan. And then they were transferring money back and we didn't set it aside. And so back, I think it was 2016, if I'm correct, we changed it to where we're not shifting the funds back and forth. We just set the 1 million aside ourselves. Now, the 1 million is in policy, and I have, in our discussions, I do think it would be prudent through the budget process we transfer the money, 1 million out of general fund into minor capital for the CMP. And I definitely think it would be prudent for us to, just like with all the other replacement funds, look at increasing that amount on an annual basis to get it to where we need it to be.
Maybe start doing that yearly. It's a good idea. Let me ask, and this is probably a little bit off topic, but would there be any appetite, and you'll know this better than probably us, but to take the million off the top? We'd have to make this policy to get them to approve it, but take the million off the top of surplus and then do the 1/3, 2/3, so that it's not really coming out of general, it would be coming out of surplus.
Well, we already have the 1 million built into our budget.
Right.
So we got that already done. Our year-end policy is that 50% goes to major capital, and then the remaining can go to minor capital, fleet, technology, CSA, or safety or
But
security.
he's saying in addition to that, taking an
The
additional
million.
$1 million off the top, is it
Yes.
advantageous to do that? That's-
Yeah, so
that's
if
what
we had a
Rick's saying.
$4 million surplus, we take $1 million, now we do $3
Before
million.
the 50/50 is
Yeah,
applied.
right. And then we know that million's going in each year.
We can always ask them. I don't know what their appetite for that would be.
Well, I can't imagine they wouldn't say, well, no, don't take care of your facilities, but anyway, yeah.
We can ask them.
Our buildings are getting older and they're becoming more expensive to maintain.
That's right.
Yeah, agreed.
We're gonna need to do something.
Any other questions there? 210, AEP easement request.
So in doing, I got a letter from AEP asking me to approve this easement, and in doing some research, it actually requires board approval for you to give me permission to do that. This is Fort Lewis, and it's hard to see up there. There's two little red pins down there right along Main Street there in Salem. They're walking that sort of track, that circle over to the left of the school. There's two poles right along Main Street on either side of the track, and they're existing poles. AEP is requesting an easement to connect the two poles so that they can provide additional electrical service to the, I think it's a vet clinic that's right.
It's right
there
to
in
the
that
left of it,
location.
yeah.
You know what my greedy first thought is?
How much
How much they gonna give?
Yeah.
I'm assuming they just want us to do it out of.
Yeah,
give us-
and my recommendation is that we do that. We have a good relationship with AEP, and we need it because we're constantly needing new services installed and, poles installed and all of that stuff.
But do you think you'll get goodwill going back that way?
Yeah,
You do?
they've been great
Okay.
in terms of working with us and doing things as quickly as they can get to them as the weather impacts their crews and things like that, but they've been great. We're trying to work with them on some solar stuff, just,
about-
considering a pilot, and they've been fantastic to work
How
with.
about, for instance, would they show up down at W. Cundiff and hook up that or the cottage?
Yeah, they are. That's already, had that discussion with Jeff today, and, yeah, they're.
That's a great example because we need for
Yeah,
them
we've
to
been
put that.
waiting, we've been
to the-
waiting, it's sitting there just waiting
of
to be
priority.
done.
Yeah.
So if they're willing, that's a good example.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Ray.
Mr. Kegels, they don't have cell service on those towers, on those easements.
No.
No, the poles are already existing. They're just asking permission to run a wire between the two of them.
I say there's not.
Yeah, no, he said no, they're just asking
No.
for permission to run a
Okay.
wire between the two.
Because that would be an incentive, more incentive for us.
I'm good with it.
Okay. I don't see any issues with that.
I'm surprised even,
All right.
yeah. It's just connected.
Item 211, various project updates.
So I was asked to give, I would give updates on our projects. Give me just a minute to find the right one. Here we go. This is not even, this is not a comprehensive list by any means. This list is just can Chuck hear us? Did we lose our,
No, you just need to duplicate, you're probably in extended desktop right now.
I didn't change anything as far as I know.
You went to PowerPoint changes it for you.
Oh, okay. Do you want to show me how to do that, or maybe we don't need it?
Oh, is it unplugged?
No, you went out of PowerPoint.
Tried that.
You're in.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Jeff. So this is the project management software that we're going to be using going forward. And the only projects that are in here right now are the ones that have started since I've been here. So one of our tasks now is to go back and get all of the old projects that are already started or already approved in here as well. So I'm just going to run down real quick and give you an update on the ones that are in here. And then if you have questions about any others that are not in here, certainly, be happy to answer them. The baseball field at Byrd, that was actually finished today. I think everybody's real happy with the work Carolina Green did there. The softball field irrigation system, it's finished. They have to do a little bit of work filling the trenches in again. They didn't get them completely smooth, so we're getting the contractor back out there to make sure that they get them smoothed out. We've got card swipe access at 2 elementary schools. Those are installed, and they've just waited to be programmed. That's supposed to be done next week. The fencing projects, I'm not going to go over individually. They're all in various stages of procurement and then installation. The first one, the materials have been ordered, and we're getting ready to start installation there as soon as the stuff's here. I will say fencing's really hard because the fencing contractors are swamped with work, and even getting them to, return phone calls and things like that's hard. So getting them out there and getting them started, it's been a challenge, but we are working on that.
Is that various fencing companies doing the
Yeah,
ramp?
we're not trying to have one company do all of them. We kind of ran into that with the ramps on the trailers, and it probably would have been a better idea to spread them out to different companies so that they could have gotten to them faster. So, we're using different companies at different sites. The William Byrd High School gym floor replacement. The school seems to have been told that the gym floor was going to be replaced. I cannot find funding for that, and Susan helped me today. I can't find that funding's ever been approved for that anywhere. So
We've been dealing with this for 5 years. Everybody tells us, no, put it off next year, we'll get it done. We've had a dead court for 5 years.
yeah, I'm not telling you to put it off. I'm just telling
No,
you
I know, no,
nobody's
I know.
approved any
We're
money
just
for
finding
it.
out.
Why does this stuff drop through?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that won't happen in the future.
Chris
But-
told me
But
it's
for now, we
scheduled
cannot
for-
find any funding source that's already been approved for that. So that's something we'll need to discuss. Let's see, non-fencing stuff.
crap.
Green Valley, doing a digital sign there for them. They're funding that. They're just waiting on finishing a fundraiser, and then we'll look at that. They also have some pavement out back that needs to be fixed. That's not been approved. We haven't discussed that yet. That's something, after we figure out the gym floor, we'll, broach that.
Can I, Mr. K, can I stop?
Yep.
That disturbs me so bad because that has been a project, as we know, we've talked about this for the last 2 or 3 years, that's coming, but we're going to wait. I even asked last summer, we went to do another school when I thought we should do ours before because it was part of need for, the construction area for the kids to have to, and then, it was said, well, let's just get the construction out of the way, which is perfect and fine, and that's okay. But how can we not, so what do we got to do to get, I want to make sure, I don't want to go past this coming Thursday's meeting. We're going to have a brand-new school and a gym floor that you can't play on. That makes total sense.
We've got to get the gym floor replaced. It came up yesterday in construction meeting, and I just asked the question, we're trying to put the pieces together here. It's obviously got to be done. We just got to put the pieces in place because can't find where, that funding stream was identified.
Is that not part of
It's
the
gotta be done.
school? It wasn't in the school project?
And I was surprised that it wasn't, right? So.
It's not in the scope of
Apparently
their
not.
work.
Do we have a ballpark price on that?
We have not, no, we don't have.
What was the price on Hidden Valleys,
Well, Hidden Valley was a sand and refinish.
Oh,
It wasn't a
okay.
replacement,
Gotcha.
but
You
based
can't
on
sand and finish
Bird,
ours anymore.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gone.
yeah, based on Bird Middles, you know, it's, I'm guessing wood's gone way
Sure,
up.
sure, sure.
But, you know, a guess might be $150,000 or so.
That just, and
How
again,
does it just
I'm not
disappear?
mad at Mr. K, but it just blows my mind
Yep.
how we can let this stuff.
Yep. So what I told Susan earlier was I need $3 million in CMP every year, and we could take care of, not all of our needs, but we could take care of a big chunk of our needs.
This isn't your, trust me, this has got nothing to do with you. This has been on the docket for 2, maybe 3 years. And we've had these, and again, if nobody remembers it, but we have, I've even asked, I know I've asked Dr. Nicey. Chris Lowe knows, I've talked to him extensively about it many times. Well, we're gonna wait until after the school's pretty much finished, then we'll go in. We're gonna move it from this year, which it was gonna be this year, to next year. And it just, again, I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad that could drop through the cracks.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
I mean,
And
we've
we're
been
looking
dealing with it
for
for
it. I mean,
5
we-
years.
Yeah, we've dug through all the accounting stuff, and Susan would know if accounts had been set up in the past for that. So, like Dr. Nicely said, everybody knows it needs to be done, and it should be part of the project, but we still have to identify funding for it.
Unbelievable.
So central office, nutrition, they're asking us to build a pretty large storage building out back here. We're working with them on that. We've got their engineering services, and they've applied to the state for funding, for permission to use the funding they already have to do that building. Glenver Middle School, we are putting air conditioning in their main gym. That has to go to, it has to be engineered. Installing, you can't just go in and install an air conditioner in there. You actually have to have engineering services for that first, and then you have to, once it's designed, then you have to get bids based on that design. And so the engineering services are being bid out right now. They're about $20,000 or so just for the engineering piece. But we have ESSER money to pay for that, so they're the only middle school gym who doesn't have air conditioning. So we are doing that for them. We talked about the Fort Lewis trailer, and looks like you guys have, decided to go forward with that. We talked about stadium lighting. That one is the Herman L. Horn, that was actually W.E. Kind if it wasn't Horn. It's just mislabeled, framing up a classroom there at Dr. Nicely's suggestion, but the school had decided that they weren't needing that right at this time. Bonsack Elementary School, we're managing that project for them. They're installing a digital sign, but they're paying for the whole thing. Hidden Valley Middle School, there's a set of concrete stairs out there. We're evaluating whether or not they can be repaired satisfactorily or whether they needed to be replaced. Again, that's a $100,000 project if we go in and try to replace them. The William Byrd High School softball dugout roof. Mr. Greenway brought that to our attention. We're getting that taken care of. Had a contractor out there today. I think they're 4 weeks out or so, but they're going to replace that.
We just,
Glenver High School's digital sign, we're replacing that for them. You guys agreed to take those on, all the digital signs and the scoreboards, but we didn't identify a funding stream for those. So as of now, we found money that was left over in other projects that hadn't been closed, and we're able to move some things around to pay to replace that sign. We repaired Northside's sign, and we did a scoreboard somewhere, fixed a scoreboard at one of the schools. I can't recall which one it was right now. But just be aware that there's no continuing funding stream identified for that. We are painting the stadium, just like we did over at Northside. We're painting Bird's Stadium here, hopefully starting next week.
Northside's
looks
funding
good.
for that came from
Yeah.
the school itself, right?
From the $50,000 that you guys set aside for stadium or for athletic facility improvements at each school. And yeah, they do. It looks great. And we are fixing the bleach, the dugout that collapsed over there. So that'll
So
be in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
The money, the funds for painting William Byrd Stadium came from,
The funds for painting William Byrd Stadium came from a field improvement account that was already set up for Byrd that had money in it from some past projects that hadn't ever been spent. Could have been in there for
Dr. Pepper money or
5
something?
years. It was set
Does it
up
have a
for
basketball
specific for
court
athletic field
improvement
improvement
in
at
it?
William Byrd. Yep. Now, Dr. Nicely asked us to look at some parking lots that need to be paved. Again, $100,000 each or so, just ballpark figures, just to kind of understand. But again, funding for those is what we're trying to identify.
Well, just to clarify, so north side, every time I go around to schools before and after school, you're talking to bus drivers, right? You're always bringing up these things. So north side bus lot, you got these huge potholes, right? So we try to fill them with gravel to kind of keep it going, which is fine as far as filling a pothole, but it's constant. I mean, eventually they need to be repaved, but meanwhile, we're just trying to get them filled, the potholes. Byrd, the Benton lot is a different story because where they put those apartments in, the Billy Bird and so forth and all that. I mean, parking's an issue and all that, so that's going to have to require some probably design work at some point to try to figure out.
Do we think we ought to move that lot? I mean, aren't they gonna end up kind of,
Find a place to put it, yeah. We've had that conversation, it's just, I don't know where you put it.
well, Jason had mentioned that they would work with us on Third Street over there. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I don't know if they.
Where's
want-
Third Street?
It's behind PFG,
Oh, okay.
or, back over in that
Yeah.
area.
They've got some land?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how that'll work. I'm sure somebody's gonna want funding for some,
Right.
I don't know if the county was planning, I don't know what the deal is. But at some point, I mean, I can't imagine they wanna continue those going by the apartments. Now, as I understand it, the town still owns the,
A little building there.
yeah, where it used to be the shop building. They still own that, but I don't know how they own that and that strip when the field is, I don't know if that's Parks and Rec, I don't know. But anyway, it's gonna be a problem at some point.
And then the last thing that's on the list, there's lots of other stuff that's not on this list, but the last thing that's on the list is the restrooms, Mr. Greenway, that you requested, and they are going to start cutting the doorways. We have the doors in the frames now. They're going to start cutting the doorways on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and then Barney is doing the plumbing on September the 17th and 18th. And it's actually kind of nice because we're building a new bathroom for preschool for, they're at W.E. Cundiff, so they're going to build it small because it's, for preschool, they're going to, the small, all the fixtures and height where the kids can actually reach it without getting up on stools and stuff
And
like
they-
that, so.
My understanding, they're full too. They got 2 full preschool, 20 apiece? Or
Yep.
some, or 18 apiece, something like that.
Yep.
So that's good, thank you.
That
So
is
the-
not the end of your list, by the way.
Well, it's the end of the list that has started.
Okay.
These things are the ones that have started since I've been here and that we're tracking in our project management software. But the tennis courts, I think is
thank
the thing that everybody wants to hear about. They're done at Northside, they're done at Glenver. They'll install new nets on Tuesday of next week. Byrd, they actually needed to go back and do another coat of orange. After we went out there, you could actually see through the orange, and so they're gonna come back and add another coat of orange to that and do the stripes. That's why they haven't done the lines out there. But he said that would all be done by Tuesday of next week, so, it took so long because he was getting pulled off on other jobs that he had already scheduled, but now he's with us through the completion. So we anticipate that everything will be done, as he says, by Tuesday of next week.
They all look good. I don't know if you had a chance to go around and see them.
And then the trailers, we hope to have the certificate of occupancy for Glen Cove and Back Creek by the end of this week. So hopefully, as of Monday, they'll be in those classrooms. And then Clearbrook, the gentleman who built the ramp at Back Creek will start out there he's supposed to start out there on Monday. And then he'll move on to W.E. Cundiff as soon as he finishes at Back Creek.
There's a pattern here. Oh, gosh. There's a pattern. I mean, you knew it was coming. Every project is where we end up, but it's okay. I'm good with it. I just want to know about that I hate to say, it, I just want to know about that basketball court.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
My next
Speaking to
step-
Mr. Greenway's frustration, and I feel your pain, I mean, since I've been on the board now not even 5 years, I guess, we've had 4 different directors of operations. And something has obviously gotten lost in that shuffle of what we had thought we had approved money for and what's being done, and I think hopefully I'm confident we have the right person in line, so you need 5 to 10 more years in that position, and then we'll be in good shape.
Don't you enjoy dealing with us?
Give me $3 million a year.
You keep feeding him money, he'll stick around. That's right. We need to hire sport maintenance people too, so.
Yes, that's right.
You
Which
only
are
have
aware of that.
3 years left with me, and you will have, maybe the next one won't be so bad.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kegels. With that, our next meeting is next Thursday. Meeting adjourned.